So here I am in beautiful Northern Ireland on a lovely summer's afternoon. But what I'm really here for is to find out who the fuck is Joe Hodgson.
Well, Melissa.
Hello, stranger.
How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Great, thanks. You look amazing.
Thank you.
That's ever.
And you?
Thank you very much. Come on.
Thank you. Goodness me, it's been a long time.
It has been. Ladies first. Welcome to Reevy Land Studios.
Wow, this looks a bit different from when I saw it last.
It's been a while since you've been here. What else? Legion in it.
Goodness me,
Marching
I
on
remember
together.
my one and only beanie was bought by you with leads on it. Have they won yet?
Not since we last spoke.
Sad.
1991, 92
Oh,
was the
well.
last time we won.
There's always hope, Joe. There's always hope.
There's always hope. Springs eternal, I know.
Absolutely. Okay, Joe, I've known you for many, many years now, but I've never actually asked you what was your driving force and what was the spark that got you into playing music?
Going on summer holidays to Dublin, and I was staying with my cousins, Brian and Kevin, and they played me Rory Gallagher.
What was it about Rory Gallagher that actually interested you so much when there would have been other influences about at that time?
Well, basically the sound just jumped from the record player, there were record players in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And Rory had this real, grit about his playing, a real sort of passion and energy, and it was really bluesy and stuff. I didn't know what blues was at the time, and it just got me,
So it affected you on an emotional level, really?
Absolutely, it was an emotional level more than I wasn't thinking about technique. It was just a visceral gut reaction. It was, okay, I want to be a guitar player.
Wonderful.
So then I went home and I pestered my mum and dad to buy me a guitar. And actually it was, funnily enough, my dad, who is the least musical in the whole family, who actually went and bought me a guitar.
Wonderful.
A beat up Woolworth's Top 20 guitar.
Right.
Which I couldn't even know how to tune it. Not that it tuned very well anyway. But it got me started,
Yeah.
And until I got my first proper guitar, which was a Fender Strat. And yeah, that was it really.
Was it dreams of being a rock star, or was
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everything. And then I realised you get garaged in this, and you can go out and alcohol. And
Oh,
these things,
absolutely.
and gigs and oh yeah, wow, yeah, it was the whole shebang,
Wonderful.
But primarily it was the love of music, all these
Yeah.
peripheral things. Yeah, they interested me, but not like anywhere like. But the music was always like the driving force, and just the pure love of the guitar, the sound the guitar made.
Right.
What he wants all those guitars for? I mean, one's all you can play at a time. And what do you want, 2 or 3? Different sounds? Yeah, all right, maybe. Well.
And I was always more into the dirtier end of sort of like the dirty blues players like Rory, and then eventually I discovered like who's my all-time hero, Gary Moore.
Yes,
And the one thing they had in
yes.
common was they're both Irish.
Of course.
Rory's from the south and Gary's Northern Ireland. But hearing Gary play and hearing him play, I remember the day that actually changed my life.
Really?
I saw Gary Moore in Donington on the Monsters of Rock Festival. It's a fantastic bill. It was like a Motley Crue, except YNT, Gary Moore fourth in the bill, Ozzy third in the bill, Van Halen second on the bill, and AC/DC top in the bill. So again, I was a kid at school and said, "Mom, please let me go and see this gig that's happening. It's called Monsters of Rock." So my mum drove me down to Dublin and the bus with all these long-haired hippies carrying crates of beer. My mum was like, what have I done here? But anyway, we got to Donington. It was this blazing hot day. And I said, I didn't know much about Gary Moore, but he came on stage in this red boiler suit and a white Strat. And just absolutely killed it. I never heard anything like it before. So I was like, holy fuck, what the fuck is this? It was amazing. And I remember at the end of the gig, he got his guitar off and just fucked it down on the ground and walked off stage. And I went, that's exactly how to do it. That's fucking it. So yeah, so he's been a huge influence musically. And he was my fucking hero, he still is.
Fantastic.
Greatest guitar I've ever heard.
Well, you've got good taste then,
Well,
that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And some things.
I had pleasure in meeting some of his Plenty of Fish girlfriends. I'm not allowed to talk about this, but never mind. We'll they all ended up in a disaster, let's say, and that's the thing about that. I still call him a good old friend as well, and I'm here today just to put my oar in.
I got back home when I after seeing that gig and said, right, I just want to be in a rock band. I've really got to do it, Rory, Gary, that's So I practiced a little bit, not enough, for my first band, Steel Claw. Man, I couldn't play. But I was lucky enough, I was in the band with really good musicians. It was Ben Hunter on bass, Speedy Rouse on drums, and Patsy Walsh on vocals. And that was like the most rock and roll band to this day I've ever been in. I used to go around Northern Ireland, in the south, just causing fucking mayhem, man. And the old story about with a gear in every port, which kind of right. Port Rush, Port Stewart, Port Glenone, Port New, Port fucking Down. It's a story in itself, that one. It's amazing,
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's kind of how it started for me, and it hasn't stopped. Much as I've tried, I can't.
Just can't stop.
No, I can't. No, I can't.
Joe said that he's learnt so much from listening and watching you play. How would you describe him as a guitarist?
Fluent, which is kind of like the thing that everybody wants to be when they're, especially rock guitarists or maybe a jazz guitarist, but certainly in the rock thing, he had all the technique that you could ever want, and he could do all the stuff that was required, and great timing, great touch. And we used to stop him playing just to see what it was he was playing. And Joe, one thing I will say about Joe's a spontaneous guitar player, and that's the best kind of guitar player or musician, because it's not thought out. It was just there. And of course, he must have been, prior to meeting me, he must have done a great deal of playing, or because he was fluent. He says that about me. I learned so much from him. So yeah.
When you listen to Joe's music now, how has his playing changed over the years?
Well, we were out of the loop for a while, but I hadn't seen him, so I was going to be able to make when I hear this new music that he's now recording, I was curious, because when you don't see somebody for a number of years, you inevitably think they're going to be the same player. And Joe's a rock guy. But this album, as now he sent me stuff, and I didn't think it was him. It was like very jazzy, very bluesy, very soulful. Still got the flair, but and still got the technique, but much more slowed down a piece. And the better for it, I think, because he always had that in his makeup to be that kind of guitar player, but he went down we all did in the 80s. We all wanted to be Flash. We all wanted to be Eddie Van Halen and all our guitar. And he's a huge Gary Moore fan. So he's channeling a bit of that now, you know. And of course his technique and his level of playing was so high that he was going to always be able to play other things. It's going to be all because he had that. So yeah, he's chilled. His playing's more chilled. So yeah.
Right, Joe, we're of a certain age now and brought up with vinyl, which was wonderful, going into the record shop, standing there, flicking through the albums. What vinyl albums are your favourites and had the most influence on you as a kid?
Okay, well, Stage Struck by Rory Gallagher was like an immense influence on me. In Through the Outdoor by Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
It was their last album. It was the first Led Zeppelin album I bought. And then I just went out and bought them all and listened to Led Zeppelin non-stop for, I'd say, 2-3 years. You know, my mind was like just Led Zeppelin. Then, of course, there was Thin Lizzy.
Of course.
Black Rose was album. Gary Moore was on with that one. Then there was an Irish band who influenced me hugely, a band called Mama's Boys. I know, did we go and see them together in London?
I think we did actually. Oh gosh.
I think we might have went up to Birmingham in the battered old van to watch them.
You've just jogged my memory. Terrible.
With a load of beer.
Oh, there would have been beer involved, I would imagine.
Yeah. And then there was an album which I'd heard loads of people talk about, and I got it as well, John Mayall and the Blues Breakers album with Eric Clapton on it. Because there was like some, a huge album in history of music, and to this day it's amazing. It influenced a lot of people like Gary Moore and stuff. You know, you still listen to it today, and Clapton never sounded better. You know, probably never will. You know, so those albums were like the ones that inspired me a lot, and still got the blues. Gary Moore brought that out. You know,
wonderful.
He made blues cool again, man, and played it his own way and brought that Irish bollocks to you know.
I imagine you've still got all these albums.
Yeah, I've got them all right here.
They never go.
They never go now. People are on, but I saw my vinyl last week. What the fuck are you doing that for? Are you fucking crazy? What did you get for like 10p each?
Crazy.
Just put it in the corner and look at it even, you know.
All right, Joe. In the years that I've known you, I've spent a lot of time with your wonderful family. Your mum, your dad, your two beautiful sisters.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry about the loss of your mum fairly recently.
Yeah.
I know she was a huge supporter of your music.
She was, yeah.
How do you think that will affect you going forward?
Well, it's sort of like my mother was, ever since she was like, I say she was my rock, she was my inspiration, she was my everything, you know. And it's one of the reasons I ended up spending much more time in Northern Ireland, because she developed motor neurone disease.
Yes.
And I came back and I nursed her in the last year of her life, which was quite a sort of harrowing experience, just to see the person you love most just literally wither in front of you, you know.
I can only imagine.
And you were lucky, you met my mum a couple of months before she died.
I did indeed. But I could still see behind those eyes. She was just still there.
But she was my biggest supporter, like, you know, she was like, oh, it didn't matter what it's always play music. And I drifted in a little bit into teaching English and stuff. And the day before, the day before she died, I said to her, Mum, thumbs up if you want me to keep being a musician, or this way for if you want me to be an English teacher. And she went,
oh, Joe, that's beautiful.
And that was her last sort of movement, you know. At that point, she couldn't speak, you know.
I've got goosebumps. You will never forget that.
So
that's beautiful.
But she was an amazing woman, you know. Yes. She this guitar. My mum bought me this, and she walked up, I think it was Great Victoria Street in Belfast, on her own, and she did this little bit of fishing. She said to me, "Oh, what guitar is Gary Moore playing?" I said, "Plays Les Paul." You know, and I said, "Oh, right, okay." So that's a bit of a strange question. I used to bring my guitar home every Christmas, that one at Charvel, and when I was in London, and she said, "Don't bring a guitar back this Christmas. You'll be fine. You know, you don't really need it. You know." And I said, "What's going on here?" So I came back, and she presented this with me. You know.
I recognise that guitar, and this might surprise you. This
Yeah.
memory, when you were living in London, and I knew you then. There was a fire at your house.
Yes.
And that guitar, I was there, that guitar was the one that came out the front door. Nothing else came out.
Yeah.
The fire brigade arrived. And your girlfriend at the time,
Cheryl.
all she said, "We've got to get Joe's guitar out." So I have
She
very
did.
fond memories of that
Yeah,
guitar.
yeah. So but that
And
guitar,
that's the one.
that guitar has done about, well, I don't know, it's done, I'd say, about 2,000 gigs now.
Wow.
And I've had it 23 years, about 2,000
Yeah,
gigs
it would be
roughly.
that, yeah.
You know, it's my pride and joy, you know.
Wonderful.
No,
What a
it's-
beautiful memory for your mum.
Yeah,
though.
fantastic, yeah. She was an amazing woman, you know. And, but, you know, nothing lasts forever.
Absolutely not. Ah, but music does.
Yeah. Like to bastardize Alfred Lord Tennyson from the poem The Brook. Women may come and women may go, but songs go on forever.
That sums you up perfectly.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Right.
Right, Joe, I know you've got an album that's about ready to drop, but what I did want to do is just touch on your previous albums and what you have to say about
Okay.
them.
Well, the first album I did when I came to London was with a band called Hit. And we worked with a producer called George DeAngelis, who I'm still great friends with, and we've done work on and off over the last 20 years together.
Right.
Did that album. After that, I worked with a band called The Nervous Rex, who you know well.
I do indeed. Many a pub night listening to you guys.
Yeah, and we became like a band called Wired, and we recorded an album with a producer called Phil Brown,
Right.
who at the time had just come off recording Steve Perry's album, the Journey Singers album and stuff, so he was kind of hot at the time as a producer. We released that. It was a mini album we did. Then after that, I got more into some songwriting, and I worked with different sort of, I've worked with a few dance artists, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, but nothing that really like you would know of, like, you know, just small little stuff. Then I formed a band called The Vibe, which morphed into Rhyme.
Ah.
In Rhyme, in that band we had a French singer, and we had a drummer, Phil G, and we had an Israeli bass player who rather unfortunately died of a drug overdose.
Oh, I'm sorry to
Which
hear
was
that.
one of the near misses. Rhyme were about to be signed by a huge promoter in America, and just as the album was about to be released, the singer walked out in the band.
No.
Just as the first batch of CDs were printed, we were actually going to go to American stuff, and that's sort of like when your singer leaves.
Yeah.
So then,
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be defeated by that, so I just went and got a new singer, a female singer who kind of outsung
Really?
previous singer, sung the fucking arse off him. We did about 3-4 Irish tours and did some tours of the UK. Then I was going to give up music. And
No.
Yeah, I just had enough. I went, fucking hell, man. And I started doing an English degree, you know. Then as soon as I started doing the degree, I got really itchy again.
I heard about that degree. Did you not do incredibly well?
Yeah, I ended up getting
Go on, tell me.
I got a first class honours in English language and English literature. And believe it or not, I won this worldwide literary prize for my writings and the works of William Shakespeare.
Good
believe it or
God.
not. You never would have thought that when we were hosting it up all those years ago. Eh?
Not a guitarist with brains.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. For brains. But anyway, so as I got itchy again to write songs,
Right.
and so I put an advert in. The scared answer to sing this Latvian girl called Cherry Mackey.
Right.
Again, so I phoned up George DeAngelis and I said, George, I found this great singer, you know, and she looks fantastic, you know, and can we record together? So we did. But the problem with that band was like mixing oil and water, unfortunately. I was coming from the Led Zeppelin, Thin Lizzy, Gary Moore thing. Cherry was coming from the Tori Amos
Right.
type Bjork type thing, and we could never like
Quite
get it
gel.
quite to I mean, George did an incredible job in the production. So we released a few singles, did a few videos, but again it sort of fizzled out. And like the way the band ended, it was kind of, I was pretty devastated when that band ended, because I was very close friends with Cherry, and we kind of fell out, and I decided to come back to Ireland then, just to sort of like, you know, tail between my legs, you know. So anyway, I came back, and always in the back of my head was to record a solo guitar album, you know, where I could be a total fucking dictator, you know, no singer, no lead singers,
no one to argue with.
Yeah, just yourself. I'm pretty good at arguing with myself, by the way.
I bet.
Yeah, no,
I believe that.
I'm an expert at that. So I came back into this room where I learned to play guitar, and I just went about like writing song after song. And what I wanted to do, I didn't want to repeat myself, you know, and just do a load of rock stuff again. I wanted to do, because people just knew me as a rock guitar player. Joe Hodgson just plays fucking rock.
Was that a cathartic experience, do you think, doing that as a solo artist?
It was cathartic as well, because it coincided with my mum's illness.
Yes.
You know, and music, I remember, like, you know, what do you call it, when she was ill, the thing was running around my head, Joe, you're either going to, like, drink yourself to death here, like, you know, trying to cope with, especially when she died, with the grief, or you're going to fucking turn on that computer, pick up the guitar and record music. And thankfully I chose the latter, you know.
Well done you.
So I came up with this, well, including the little intro, which I didn't write the intro, but there's 15 tracks of my own on it, and the album is called Apparitions. And the title of the album comes from a W.B. Yeats poem called Apparitions. And it was my mum's favourite poem.
Oh, beautiful.
And one of the lines in it is, 15 apparitions have I seen, the worst a coat upon a coat hanger. And my mum used to sit and she used to laugh away at this line, and I used to laugh away, and Ali, my sister, used to go, you two are weird. You two are fucking weirdos. I mean, my mum, this is really funny. Because my mum was a huge W.B. Yeats fan. She used to read his poetry, like, you know. Beautiful. And so I decided to call the album Apparitions, and this number 15. I'm going to write 15 tracks, you know. That sounded a bit wanky, but it didn't really like.
Oh, I don't know.
But anyway,
your award.
So as my mum was slowly like withering away, I would come and say to her, Mum, I'm on apparition number 7 now, and she sort of nodded. Great.
Fabulous.
And I got up to apparition number 13, and then she died. So the last couple, but luckily I wheeled her into this room. She was in a wheelchair, and I played the songs, all 13 I had recorded at the time, unmixed, you know.
Beautiful.
And she just, what do you call it? She just wrote lovely melodies. And I've got that bit of paper somewhere, you know. And that was all. Because to me, music is all about melody, you know. It's not about, like, you know, showing off what you can do, like, but a melody that will communicate, you know.
Well, it obviously did for your mum.
But then, after my mum died, I decided I was going to mix the album, and I went to Canada to mix the album with this absolutely amazing mix engineer, a guy called Chris James Ryan. We went to...
That would have been good, eh?
It was good, yeah. It was really good. I went over to Hamilton in Ontario, and we mixed the album over there. And Chris now is one of the... We became great friends, and instant friends, you know.
Yeah.
And the first thing Chris asked me was, who's your favourite guitar player? And I said, Gary Moore. And he goes, mine too. So I knew, right, we're
match made in heaven.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
And Chris, like, painstakingly mixed the album for me, and he did a fabulous job.
What was your experience like working with Joe on this album, and what do you think of his music?
Well, overall it was a really positive experience working with Joe. Basically the way the process would work, he would call me out of the blue and say, listen, I've got another song, and he'd bass record it, and then usually within 2 or 3 days we'd meet up and record the bass. And what I enjoyed about the process is that he left me a lot of artistic freedom and creative license, and I feel like he respects my opinion as a musician. Beyond that, we might have quite a few different points of view, but musically we do have a lot in common. So yeah, he values my input, and what I like about Joe, musically, he's always up for trying different ideas and new things, which I think comes across on the album. And yeah, like I said, I don't think he just values me as a bass player, but also as a musician in general, unless he's very good at pretending, which is also quite possible.
I don't think he's very good at pretending. In fact, I can't imagine him not saying what he thinks at all.
No, he wears his heart on his sleeve for sure.
One thing I wanted to ask, is there any standout tracks on this album for you?
Well, in terms of an up-tempo track, I'd say Fly a Flag. I really enjoyed recording that one. And as a more ballady type, I would go for Till the Last Breath. It's sort of hard with his album because it's so versatile. If you take out one song, let's say you listen to Bareback Blues, for example, it doesn't really give you the full picture of the album. So you're kind of sort of missing the point by just selecting one song, because then you would assume, oh, he's a blues guitarist, but there's so much more to it. So I guess with those two songs, maybe that gives a good sort of idea, a good cross-section of what the album and Joe's music's about.
For all the people out there that don't know Joe's music, how would you explain it to somebody?
That is a tricky question. So I guess Joe's music and his album is very personal to him. And after, I've known Joe for almost 20 years, 18 years or something. And I've known him more as doing kind of, sounds really negative, but sort of more middle of the road kind of pop rock. And I think with this album, he really decided to be very brave, doing an instrumental album, which is kind of unusual for a sort of more rock-inspired guitarist. But I think it turned out really well. And I know comparisons with other music or other artists aren't often very helpful when it comes to music. But I'm hearing a bit of, sort of Jeff Beck in there that's slightly crazy and orthodox playing style. And again, I mean this in a positive way. And like I said before, his music's very versatile and it touches on a lot of different emotions, and I'd say certainly anything but boring, just like Joe himself.
You're not wrong there. And a final question for you. Ever been out drinking with Joe?
Never. Too many times, and he struggles to say no to a drink, and so do I. So like I said, a lot of the sessions were sort of signed off with a lot of Guinness, talking about everything. And I mean, to be honest, I haven't got anything bad to say about Joe. I mean, politically, we have a few heated discussions in the pub. So we certainly don't see eye to eye in that department. But I mean, he's got a really big heart, and he's very fair, and he's like, I feel that he really appreciates my input and me being involved, which makes me feel nice about it, and makes me feel excited to be involved myself.
I went and mastered it in Metropolis with John Davis, who did all the Led Zeppelin remasters.
Oh, fantastic!
And stuff, and he's done lots of big stuff. And it was great just to finally final day when it was finished to do it with someone like that in this glorious studio in London. And so the album's done now. It's ready for release. It's dropping
Soon
in January 2020.
Can't wait.
So neither can I. It's kind of the end of at one point I thought it's never going to end. This is just never going to end. But we got there.
Fantastic.
It's ready to go. Whether I'll play the song, I'd love to play some of the songs live. We just want to see first gauge the reaction.
Yeah.
See what people think.
Wonderful. Okay, Joe. I know you've got a beautiful daughter, Molly. She's absolutely gorgeous. Becoming a dad, did that change how you felt emotionally, and did it affect your music in any way?
Before Molly came along, I was an emotional retard.
And you're not now?
That's a very good question. No, I remember the first time Molly came in my arms.
Yes.
And it was the most magic moment of my life. And the first thing I did with Molly was I pinned her little Legionetta badge on her when she was about
You didn't.
5 minutes old.
Really?
Less, 2 minutes old. And I've got the picture up there. And I walked her around the room at San Michel Hospital in Toulon. And I thought, wow, I'm going to love you for the rest of my life. I'm going to be worried about you for the rest of my life. And it made me realise that with love comes responsibility.
Indeed.
And love without responsibility means fuck all.
You're right. You're absolutely right about that. You need to step up and be there for your child.
And
you've done that.
Well, Molly, yeah.
The future, well, yeah, there will be another Joe Hodgson. It will rise again from the ashes, and age may not get the better of him, but his dad is 96 as well, which is quite worrying. So I'm afraid it looks like we're going to have to put up with a Joe for a long time yet. He's getting it together, and the future's bright. And all I can say is, great to see you, Joe. Always, you're a top man. Take care of yourself. Ciao.
And one last question, which is one I think we should all ask ourselves at some point in our life. Any regrets?
Someone asked me that. I always think of the Samuel Beckett quote. Not a word, not a deed, not a thought, not a need, not a grief, not a joy, not a girl, not a boy, not a doubt, not a trust, not a scorn, not a lust, not a hope, not a fear, not a smile, not a tear, not a name, not a face, no time, no place, that I do not regret exceedingly, and ordure from beginning to end. Beats the fuck out of you and regret, Rianne.
Well, I think that really does say it all.
It's been fun, Melissa, hasn't it?
It has indeed. Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought?
Well, best of luck for your new album. I really
you.
look forward to hearing it.
Thank you.
And congratulations.